Do you remember Enter the Gungeon? The bullet hell roguelike that made headlines in 2016 and aged to become one of the most beloved titles in the indie game community? Yeah? Well, what happened to it? Nobody talks about it anymore, so you would think it lost all of its players and died out, right? Well, surprisingly, it didn't. The game still gets near 2000 average active players, which is about the same as its in-between patch baseline back in the late 2016s. Now, this is by no means a phenomenon that has never been seen before. On the contrary, there are actually many games, even in the same genre, that get constant maintenance and influx of content and manage to sometimes not only retain but even increase their active player counts. That's where it gets wild. On the 5th of April 2019, Enter the Gungeon received its true final update called A Farewell to Arms. After this, nothing. Silence. The game didn't even receive something as little as a balance change for more than 6 years, and yet, its core audience still plays it. But how? And why? In a time where so many games come out with big promises for longevity and franchising, yet ironically lose all of their popularity in months, how did Gungeon, this simple 2D game, survive without even trying? Was it luck? Was it some key design choice that just made people come back? And whatever it is, why do most developers struggle to replicate it? To answer this, we have to go back 11 years and look at how Enter the Gungeon was even made. The year is 2014. 4 employees of Mythic Entertainment, a name famous for releasing Dark Age of Camelot back in the 2001s, leave the company with the dream to create their own original project, a group that would later become known as Dodge Roll. One day, a member of the team by the name of Dave Crooks gets inspired by the soundtrack of a game called Gun Gods. The team then sits down for a lunch meeting and thinks up of a story that is so wacky and abstract, it really makes you wonder how the team's conversation went that day. In a galaxy far, far away exists a legendary prison called the Gungeon. It is believed that somewhere within its walls hides a gun that can kill the past and by doing so change the future. One day, a catastrophe known as the Great Bullet strikes the Gungeon and shatters its walls, prompting an organization known as the Hegemony to attempt conquering it. The expedition is a failure, but the organization does make it far enough to give hope to desperate people from all over the galaxy to come to the Gungeon and take their shot on changing the past which they so much regret. Those brave and unfortunate souls are in fact the playable characters. 2 years of development and hype campaigns pass by, and by the beginning of 2016, Enter the Gungeon stands as one of the most anticipated indie titles of the year. Then, on April 5th the same year, the game releases and it is a massive success. Many big indie YouTubers such as Northern Ireland Huts pick it up immediately on launch, and the game hits 13,600 players on Steam, a gigantic number for an indie game at the time. Encouraged by the success, Dodge Roll start dishing out updates practically every week, and with its momentum and growth, Enter the Gungeon managed to sell more than 3 million copies. In this situation, many developers would start seeing green and try to milk their success as much as possible, spamming out low quality, high frequency paid DLCs and microtransactions that everybody hates, but ultimately make the devs crazy rich. Not Dodge Roll though. Instead, Dodge Roll releases their third, free named content expansion to the game called A Farewell to Arms and announces it to be the last update that the game will ever receive. Now, usually the words final update trigger reactions of sadness or even anger amongst the loyal fans, but not with Gungeon. In this case, not only is the update almost universally accepted as a great conclusion to the game, but the community even proceeded to actively support the developers with making their project Enter the Gungeon 2. And the craziest part? If you look at the player counts before and after the final update, with the exception of the few months around free DLCs, the baseline player counts remain practically unchanged. The level of goodwill and dedication required for a community to pull this off is astronomical, which begs the question, how did it even happen? How did this simple, single-player game obtain and retain its fans' undying dedication for a whole 9 years? Like any other iconic game, the answer to why Enter the Gungeon survived against all odds lies in what makes the game so unique. In order to find the objective reason, I tried delving into the very depths of the Steam forums and Reddit to look for a consensus as to why people stuck around. Finding out what made people initially like the game was easy. For some, it was a difficulty. Specifically, the fact that Enter the Gungeon relied much less on luck and far more on the player's skill, something very rarely found in roguelikes to this extent. For others, it was the sheer amount of content. The game featured tons of different items, passive, secrets, unlockables, and even a completely unique final boss and ending for every single character. Figuring out why people stuck around, however, was much more difficult. I mean, let's look at the facts. Ever since 2019, there have been tons and tons of incredible skill-based roguelikes with a massive amount of content and incredible art styles. So why didn't Gungeon fans just find their next game and move on? From what I read, and also from my personal memories with the game, I have reached the following hypothesis. People kept playing because Enter the Gungeon has a soul. But what does that mean, you ask? Let me explain. When you're playing Enter the Gungeon, you feel as if though it's speaking to you, but not just one way. You feel like you're having a conversation. The way the game does that is true relatability. Everything in this game is a reference. And no, I am basically not exaggerating. Almost every single thing in this game is a reference. Most of the guns, the NPCs, the lore, the world, the bosses, it's all a funny throwback to another game or movie or a song or some real-world event. Every time you enter an area, you are reminded of something that you have seen, maybe as a kid or even an adult, but have forgotten about. It unlocks past memories and makes you reminisce of old times, almost like you're speaking to a lifelong friend. You could say the game has a feeling of coziness. It presents you with a completely fictional world and it somehow manages to make you feel like you're at home. Looking at it really makes you think, why aren't more games just doing this? Why are there so many games dishing out lame battle passes and empty promises instead of just focusing their resources to make the game relatable? The answer lies in the way most big games are made nowadays. It's sadly all too corporate. Instead of having a group of friends sit down over lunch and think up of something funny over a beer, you get a long chain of accountability where every tiny decision has to be approved by 5 executives, which then wait 2 business weeks to pass it down, and so on and so forth. This kills any potential for creativity and most importantly for fun. It's just too much money, too little passion. So is there any hope? What is, so to say, the fix? How do you make big mega corporations not greedy and instead passionate? Well, personally, I think that kind of sounds ridiculous. I mean, just listen to it, a non-greedy megacorp? That's like saying a non-preaching preacher or an orange that isn't the color orange. That being said, I think the situation is far from hopeless. I think it's about focus. Yes, every Ubisoft will never stop milking their Assassin's Creed, but that doesn't change the fact that genuinely inspired games still come out. Yes, Enter the Gungeon marketed itself correctly. It was anticipated. In a way, it was destined to succeed. But many games like that aren't. There are so many hidden gems that get buried and end up either not being discovered for years or just never being discovered at all. It's so sad when you discover a genuinely great game and you open its community and you see less than 1,000 people caring about it. It's up to us to look for those games and make sure they get the recognition they deserve. We need to look past the flashy marketing of soulless games and dig for those that change our lives. Focus on the positives, and with our voices combined, we can make a difference. Thank you very much for watching. Making this video was a ton of fun like always, and I hope to see you again, my friend. For now, goodbye.